I was sitting in my grandparents' upstairs TV room on a dark night, staying up past my 8 p.m. bedtime, which, as a 6-year-old, was a rare thing to do. If it's not already obvious, I'm a big fan of Power Rangers. I owned a few of the VHS tapes back in the day, but one always seemed mysterious to me, so much so that I didn't even immediately watch it when I first got it. It sat on my shelf, spine facing out. One particular night, I decided to watch it. I examined the cover, and it was every bit as horrifying as a 6-year-old could imagine. Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, The Queen's Wrath. That's the name of this horrifying thing.
Don't miss the all-out adventure of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, The Queen's Wrath, with the biggest, baddest finale of them all.
Just the cover alone was enough to give me nightmares. To this day, I still have an irrational fear of things lurking in the darkness, and I have this collection of Power Rangers episodes to thank. In fact, I would credit Power Rangers as my introduction to horror and for helping me appreciate it. But this isn't the only time Power Rangers has gone down the horrific route. I thought I'd take a look at some of Power Rangers' scariest episodes. First off, I'm not playing when I say scary. We're talking Courage the Cowardly Dog levels of scary, which, side note, the Harvest Moon episode was extremely freaky. But what helped me get over it was my cousin telling me it was Zordon as a landlord. There are villains like Emperor Grum and of course Lord Zed who were famous for having scary designs. In fact, Zed was so scary, the writers had to tone him down and have him marry season 1 villain Rita Repulsa. The things marriage does to ya. But I'm looking for a whole scary experience. Power Rangers has had Halloween specials, but ironically, they're some of the least scary and really only accomplishing showing the Rangers in costumes. Other costumes. The first episode is Dino Thunder's The Missing Bone. The Rangers go on a field trip to a dinosaur museum with their new teacher, Anton Mercer, who happens to be Trent, the White Ranger's adoptive father. Side note, in the previous episode, he's revealed to also be Mesogog, the main villain. It's a very Jekyll and Hyde kind of situation.
'Cause I was Jekyll, Jekyll, Hyde, Jekyll, Hyde, Hyde, Jekyll, 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 Hyde, Jekyll, Hyde.
From the get-go, you know something sinister's up when they visit the museum, and it doesn't help that their teacher is the main villain, but Yellow Ranger Kira notices the shitty CGI T-Rex statue, feeling like it could come to life. Funny enough, it did in the very first episode and chased down Tommy after he roundhouse kicked it. As they walk through, the museum seems empty. The characters don't seem to notice, but it feels eerie. Suddenly, a figure runs by in the back and she notices it. She sneaks off from the group to investigate, only to be attacked by the series' henchmen, the Tyrannodrones. And then, the scary part. Normally, she could wipe the floor with them, but the Tyrannodrones outnumber her. They restrain her in front of a dinosaur skull fossil. It calls out to her, then commands her to obey him, her eyes briefly changing. And then it's your standard brainwashed character trope, but this is done very well. Kira acts mostly normal, just more distant and manipulative to obey the fossil, which continues to call out to her.
I'm fine, I just got lost.
Lost?
Yeah, isn't uptown, but I'm fine. Are we leaving?
Yeah, we're leaving.
Great, let's go.
She tips off Tommy to chase a false lead so she could be alone in the Dino Lab, their base of operations. As she enters, she hears the voice of the fossil commanding her to steal something. This sequence is well shot. Once Kira is 100% in a trance and doesn't have to act normally, the camera angles become Dutch angles. The lighting on her in the first shot casts a hard shadow across half of her face, a very striking look. Later, she returns to the museum. She walks towards the camera, and as she gets closer, the shadows bring attention to her eyes. She then places the item she took, a bone, onto the shelf the skull fossil was on, allowing it to reassemble itself as a full fossil monster.
This is a skeleton! This is bones! Would you run from Callista Flatheart?
From here on out, it becomes a standard Power Rangers fare, and he blasts her after he's done with her. Turns out the fossil was planted there by Mesogog and was a freak dinosaur DNA experiment that resulted in a crazed telepathic mutant creature. Normal for Power Rangers. It's unsettling to see the way it makes Kira act. In most other brainwashing episodes, or even episodes where villains impersonate Rangers, this one doesn't play around with characters getting into hijinks.
How come you're not staying with the guys?
What, we have to do everything together?
Well, no. But you usually do, don't you?
Kira isn't acting like she's obviously evil or pretending to be good until the coast is clear. She acts like her normal self.
That must be them.
Wow, good call, Connor.
What gets me is that, it's not really her in the driver's seat, and having a possessed dinosaur skull whispering into your ear is enough to turn me away. As someone who occasionally gets sleep paralysis from time to time, losing control of your body is terrifying, much less surrendering your control to some possessed zombie dinosaur bones. Ugh. Power Rangers in Space's The Barillian Sting begins with quite an ominous music sting, pun intended. TJ, Cassie, and Carlos are on a planet in search of Zordon, who at this point is being held captive. They're ambushed by villains Ecliptor and Darkonda. While Ecliptor sends Quantrons out to fight the Rangers, Darkonda releases an alien bug that stings Carlos. They retreat and immediately examine him. Carlos, who has red and blue marks on his skin, says he feels cold.
I'm cold.
I can tell. You know how I can tell? Because we're connected.
Hearing this, Andros says he possibly recognizes the bug. He and TJ leave the room to talk. Carlos doesn't hear them, and they leave. They peer back on the planet where Andros takes TJ to confirm his suspicions. They run into Darkonda again, who releases another bug on them, only for them to shoot it down. Andros reveals it as a Barillian bug, the cause of an epidemic on his home planet. One sting will turn people into Barillian bugs themselves. But the people of KO-35 developed an antidote. It's just too bad the planet's been left abandoned. They tell Cassie and Ashley to keep Carlos restrained and on the Astro Megaship. The camera cuts immediately to Carlos, who is convulsing. The red and blue pattern has spread, resembling veins, and his eyes are rolling up into his head. The camera pans away toward a monitor, showing his DNA changing, and then panning back to reveal a different hand covered in slime. The sound design here is amazing. Not only are the sticky and viscous sounds horribly disgusting, crackling sounds accompany it during the transformation. This brings to mind crustaceans or bugs with exoskeletons and molting their shells. As Andros and TJ return, they find Cassie and Ashley on the ground. They both get up, telling them about Carlos. They see a vent covered in slime where Carlos escaped. For a short while, the episode plays with the fact that we don't see Carlos transformed. The Rangers decide to pack heat in a surprisingly dark turn.
Hi, Dad.
Okay, they mentioned setting their Astro Blasters on the lowest setting to not hurt him, but this totally wouldn't fly today. I'm surprised they even allowed this at all. Well, they split up.
Now, wait a minute, hold up! How come every time some scary shit happen that we need to stick together, you white people always say, let's split up?
They investigate the ship, and you'll almost never have moments like this anymore in Power Rangers, where it's either silent or ambient, and the Rangers are just aimlessly searching. They're trapped on the ship with him, and he could be anywhere. TJ and Cassie spot him and pursue. They catch up to him in the engine room, where he looks like your average Power Rangers monster of the week. He attacks them and stings Cassie. They then restrain her. Ashley notices that she's being watched from above while TJ and Andros hear strange noises. While I never saw the monster design as being that visually scary, the feeling of being hunted down with nowhere to hide is the real horror. TJ and Andros dip out to get the antidote from KO-35, leaving Ashley as the final girl.
Final girl?
Oh, that's right, you missed the 80s. Every horror movie has a final girl. The one who survives it all and lives to tell the tale.
Spliced in with more of the usual Power Rangers moments, the rest of the episode really makes you feel a sense of dread when Ashley, all alone, minus Alpha, discovers that Cassie has broken free of her restraints and that there are 2 Barillian bugs on the loose. Thankfully, TJ and Andros return just in time and the rest of the episode returns to form. Not the most outright horrifying, but definitely one to keep you on your toes. Time for the one I mentioned I had a VHS copy of at the start of the video. Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue is known for its lackluster villains, but I'm here to say no. I don't think the villains are as bad as some people say, except Vipra and Loki. But Diabolico, Olympius, and the main bad bitch herself, whom I'll mention later, are bad to the bone. Not only that, they have top-tier designs. That alone is scary. The actual Ranger side of the story is themed around high-tech rescue services. This greatly contrasts the villains who are demons. Literal demons, like spawn of Satan, talked about in the Bible demons. A bit of an exaggeration, but they really do fit that name. Throughout the season, the villains are constantly seen resorting to curses, black magic, rituals, sending people to literal hell. They've earned being called demons. So by the time the final story arc comes around, the freaky demonic things they do build up as part of their identity. And not only that, even with the best technology available to them and straight up submerging their base underwater, because demons don't like water, I guess, the Rangers are constantly dealing with manipulation and infiltration from the demons. It's a scary thought that even with the best technology has to offer you at the time, you can't fight beings who are so ancient and exist on a completely different plane as you. With that out of the way, I wanted to talk about the fourth to last episode of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, The Wrath of the Queen. The episode begins with a follow-up to the previous episode where it's revealed Queen Bansheera is undergoing a transformation, although that episode had its own horror.
You know, someday you're gonna make a great doctor.
If I can afford medical school.
Can't escape tuition and debt. You find it even in the fictional world of Power Rangers. In the episode proper, Jinxer stumbles into the Queen's chambers, where she summons Vipra and essentially consumes her life force as punishment for her failures.
The transformation is working. My bodily form is finally returning to me.
Jesus, who okayed this? She was frightening enough in her mutated form that she was in for most of the season, but her bodily form is terrifying. Her tall stature, exaggerated expression, long claws, it still sends shivers down my spine to this day. But she doesn't just look the look. This woman is demented. They established that she was willing to lock her son in hell. Okay, the Shadow World, but you got my point.
Olympius was a failure. Let him rot there forever.
This episode alone, she manipulates her followers and tries to get them to kill one another. It's only through the hatred for her that villain Diabolico grows over her repeated backstabbing throughout the season that he gives the Rangers a chance to escape. The Rangers eventually do escape, but the Queen's not dead. She reappears, giant-sized, and even turns the sky dark, which in Power Rangers is typically the signal or trope to show that the shit is hitting the fan. The Megazord fight is short, and she literally nopes her way out of there. This episode serves as a fantastic and frightening introduction to Queen Bansheera at her most lethal. It also serves as an intro to the absolute chaos of the following episodes. Even the way she introduces herself to Red Ranger Carter is intimidating.
Welcome to my lair, Red Ranger. I've been wishing for this day. The other 4 Rangers are already in my grip, leaving only one other ridiculous Ranger to deal with. You!
If not for Diabolico telling him what her weakness is, she would have easily taken out the Rangers. Too bad her weakness is not having a heart.
Heart? Heart?
My strength comes from within. I have a heart.
Heart?
Heart! Oh!
Sleep well while you can, Rangers.
And now for some honorable mentions. Peace, Love, and Woe for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1. This seemingly typical episode of the original series has some weirdly spooky visuals. The monster of the week, Madame Woe, is dressed in all white with a simplistic yet sinister looking white mask. Also, worth noting is, she's voiced by Lois Griffin.
Then destroy him. I am honored to do your evil deed.
Despite the visuals, the episode treats it generically, and a lot of the potential for nightmare fuel was extinguished by the show's signature 90s cheese.
Who are you? Your worst nightmare. What are you doing?
The next is Blitz from Power Rangers RPM. While most of the episode is the production team burning through unused monster suits and footage, the intro is unsettling, even for Power Rangers. Dylan has a nightmare and is in the command garage alone as creepy music that's been eating away at the audience all season draws him into the lab. Fog fills the room, only for him to suddenly find himself.
Who am I? can't remember.
He asks who he is before seeing a blind girl with a cane. She's attacked by Grinders, this season's henchmen, and she's pushed off the platform. He's unable to save her, and she screams as she falls to her assumed death. This is all at the start and only lasts a few minutes, but damn, Power Rangers just needs to do a whole episode of this. And just to break the rule of threes convention, I thought I'd step into the Scariest Power Rangers episode immediately. Occasionally, the show likes to get away with small things the network normally wouldn't approve for its young audience. But what if that was the entire episode? And this is a case that's not unique to Power Rangers.
I think it tastes like shit.
But certainly was the line towed in the era following Power Rangers in Space all the way through Wild Force. One could argue that Power Rangers shifted to a lighter tone after the real-world implications of 9/11, and especially after Disney's purchase of the franchise. It's an important thing to consider when even more recent films like Pixar's Turning Red felt heavy with influence of the tragic event. This was a joke, by the way. But before then, it was a wild west of rules, so the perfect storm of effort put into the writing and decisions making it past the executives culminated in Lost Galaxy's The Rescue Mission. Open on Terra Venture, a space colony off to find a new world. Yeah, the show goes full Star Trek this season. Mike Corbett arrives at the command deck to the crew receiving an ominous distress call. Terra Venture's captain, Commander Stanton, answers the distress call. No response. The alien figure continues to plead as the commander tries in vain.
Go to alert status. Mr. Chen, I want to know where that signal's coming from.
Yes, sir.
Not only is the sender unknown, the alien in the call was designed in a much more realistic way, for the lack of a better term, less whimsical than the usual monster design seen in the show, and somewhat humanoid. It also gives a found footage feel with a close-up camera angle as the alien is ducked in the corner, crying out.
Oh, come on. Cindy, the news is on.
From the theme song, you wouldn't be able to tell you were watching the same show. Beyond it, the Terra Venture High Council convenes to discuss whether they should help, noting that it's a diversion from their course. It's a neat little scene to have as it deals with the logistics of such an operation, the nitty-gritty. This grounds the episode more as it deals with the realistic and fair point of possibly not helping, a little bit of light political back and forth to weigh the pros and cons. And while normally I'd scoff at the reasoning, Mike speaks up and meets both sides of the argument with some good justification.
Our mission doesn't spell out that we have to rescue others in times of trouble. It's because it doesn't need to be spelled out.
A little preachy, sure, but it's honestly not a bad moral delivery, children's show and all. Now, if you've never seen Lost Galaxy or watched the intro, you might be wondering who Mike is. Mike is the older brother of Red Ranger Leo Corbett. Is Mike himself a ranger? Debatable, depends on who you ask in the fandom. But just 2 episodes prior, he inherits the powers of a character called the Magna Defender. All context that's good to know, but ultimately unneeded, as he doesn't once morph into the Magna Defender this episode. Speaking of the Red Ranger, he does go to the park to see Leo playing with some random children. Power Rangers has this weird recurring trope of them being babysitters to these random kids. It's so bizarre.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
I need your help. It's important. Hey, thanks for coming.
Bitch, I swear to God.
Yes, those are the same costumes from Starship Troopers. I believe they were also reused for Firefly. As Leo and Mike make their way to the distressed ship, Commander Stanton supervises the operation. Among the crew with him is Kai Chen, the Blue Ranger. Why aren't the Power Rangers volunteering for this mission when 3 members of the team are aware of it? I don't know, shut up! Cut to an alien ship floating in the darkness of space. The music cue evokes a desolate feeling. Kai looks in awe as the camera holds on his gaze as he can't seem to look away from the eerie object floating before the space colony. By the way, some of the exterior shots of the derelict ship look gorgeous. Growing up with Star Wars, I fell in love with the miniatures that they used to shoot with, and this season gives us some of the best and definitely takes inspiration from it. They dock. The inside of the ship is dark, with only the beams of their flashlights illuminating the web-covered walls. The cinematography here really sets the mood. You constantly see characters silhouetted, either fully with a light source behind them, or from the reflection of a light source that's just barely hitting their faces. It's literally dark, but it's also not pitch black, which is something I feel even higher budget shows like Game of Thrones really fail to film in a readable way. The group search around until Mike steps onto some Nickelodeon slime. No, Mike, you'll be locked into a 2-season contract! They follow the trail of slime to a hatch containing an alien corpse covered in webs, and on top of it, the remains of an egg. One of the soldiers mentions that it seemed like something wanted to get out. Leo calls to the group. He shows them a slime-covered hole through a door. One soldier, Hargan, is creeped out. They open the door. They discover the same distress call playing on one of the monitors in the next room. It's a recording.
Hey, Cindy! Look! I'm on TV, y'all! Check it out! I want to give a shout out to all my peeps!
Whoever sent it did so some time ago, likely long before they arrived. Leo goes to an alien corpse sitting on a chair. It's clutching something. He digs through the web-covered corpse to find a book. Mike sends word back to Commander Stanton about the call. Kai notices something heading towards them. As horror tropes go, their comms start to die out as they are ordered to abort the mission. A cool detail I noticed is when Mike and Leo struggle to hear their orders, you can see Terra Venture floating in the background so far away. Makes the viewers feel more isolated due to the distance. Anyway, they hear a noise and head towards it. They start blasting as an unseen creature runs past the camera.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang!
Jasper, another soldier, gets captured by the creature. Hargan starts having a breakdown.
What if the thing comes back? It's gonna get us. I
Hargan,
can't take this
pull it
anymore.
together.
It's gonna take. Hargan!
What age is the target audience again? Comms are still down, and Mike orders they go rescue Jasper. Back on Terra Venture, Kendricks comes in and signals Kai to come with her. She's the Pink Ranger, by the way. We're also halfway through this episode. We have not seen a single Ranger yet. On the ship, Mike, Leo, and the gang explore when...
There's ectoplasm!
Both Mike and Leo look to each other before looking up and exclaiming that it is above them.
It's above us!
The creature drops down. We get a better view of it, but not for long. It's constantly moving, and fast. They shoot at it, but their guns have no effect. Cut back to Hargan, who stayed behind in an earlier part of the ship. He's shaking and scared. He hears blasts as the creature easily makes its rounds. Leo grabs his gun and manages to get the creature to somewhat retreat, onto the walls and ceiling. It catches him by surprise and holds him against a rail. The book falls. Leo is pinned until Mike shoots it in the back, causing the creature to flee. The camera cuts to the book as the creature picks it up. Leo and Mike are the only two left, but not for long as they enter the room where the other soldiers are being kept, covered in webs and slime. Hargan hears a creak. A pounding sound comes from a closed door. Something wants in. Hargan falls to the ground as he's grabbed, only for it to be loose wires. The door begins to spark as it's pushed down to reveal the Power Rangers. It's 3/4 into the episode. How delightful. I forgot the show was about them by this point. Also, can I mention how cool I think these suits look in this lighting? Wow. Leo finds the book and the soldiers make their way back to the heliship, but the creature is still on their tail. The Rangers help rescue the other soldiers, with Kai asking where Leo and Mike are. The two try to outrun the creature in an attempt to buy time to escape. They begin shooting at it, causing violent explosions on the ship, which makes the monster look even more menacing. Apparently, said blasts are enough for the ship to also completely explode. The brothers find a door and blast it open. Now, I'm no expert, but they shouldn't be able to breathe with the vacuum of space sucking them out of the ship. But Power Rangers has had more egregious scientific errors. This is hardly anything too far-fetched by comparison. The Hellship spots them and flies next to the door as soldiers and the other Rangers encourage them to jump. Leo jumps first and makes it. Mike jumps next with a book in hand, only for the creature to grab onto his foot.
Power Rangers in a lost galaxy. Blaster Megaclaw, Gyroblader, Spirostorm, Blasting Power Rangers fight. All the mega weapons mine. Power Rangers.
Blasting Power Rangers, Jet Jammers, and Galactic Speeders, each sold separately from Bandai.
It's a tug of war in the vacuum of space. Luckily, Kai arrives just in time in his jet jammer to slash the creature with his quasar saber. The Hellship flies away as the ship is engulfed in flames. While the mission wasn't fruitful, Mike and Leo look over the mysterious book they brought back, which would become a recurring plot device for the rest of the season. And the episode comes to an end. I am amazed by how this even came to be. By this point, the network executives must have just given them a lot of trust in the show to allow this to happen. Episode director Steve Wong even posted about it on his MySpace account. Oh, MySpace is like Facebook, but even more dead. He says, This is an episode I directed back in the late 90s. It was an Aliens-inspired episode. Since Alien was a knockoff of It, the Terror from Beyond Space, I decided to put the original monster back in my Alien knockoff. Lol. Well, that's it for this video appreciating the horror of Power Rangers. As of recently, Power Rangers and its Japanese counterpart Super Sentai's design company, Plex, is strayed away from more scary, realistic monster designs. The villains tend to look more fun with brighter colors and simple to goofier designs. But maybe one day, either series will dip its toes back into scaring children and giving them many nightmares. The 2017 Power Ranger movie had a few jump scare moments with Rita that I appreciated. But for now, the scariest thing about Power Rangers was the fans. Rest in peace to showrunner Simon Bennett's Twitter account. Oh. Thanks for watching. Just want to remind you to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my new videos. I also stream on Twitch. Links to that, plus my Discord and Twitter, can be found in the description.